Well, hello there. In this video, we're going to take a look at the AngularJS documentation. This is a compiled help version of the AngularJS core framework from Google. So for those that are very familiar with Angular, this would be a very excellent asset to have as part of your programming arsenal and to come up to speed with Angular or to become familiar with some of the underlying or underpinning areas of AngularJS that you're not familiar with. What we've done here is we've built an abstract tree, syntax tree off of the AngularJS script. And using that AST byproduct, we're able to build out a compiled help product. And as you can see here, our compiled help breaks it down into two core areas: global variables and function scopes. If I look at my global variables, for example, you can see that each global variable may or may not have an assignment associated to it. If it does, you'll see the assignment down here, and also you'll see a reference, so a set of references associated to it. At this point here, we do not have any documentation per se, but this particular script is well documented. So as you navigate through the various elements within the help file, you'll be able to get a feel for how things are built. This is quite nice because it gives you an idea of how a professional framework is built from the ground up. And so rather than sort of poking away at it and trying to figure and navigate your way through a script, a JavaScript, such as Angular, you're able to kind of use a search, for example, here if I wanted to look for fn_arg. I get a very quick response, and as you can see, I can see where it's used throughout the application itself. So that's the global variables, and there's quite a few of them, as you can see here. For example, here's jQuery, and jQuery is assigned by window.jQuery, which is coming from the global jQuery object that's associated to the jQuery script. And you can see that this variable, jQuery, is used in a number of locations throughout the script. So if we look at, for example, bind jQuery as a function, you can see that it's being referenced right here, and it's actually where it's being assigned, which I guess makes sense with the function calling it bind jQuery. But you can also see here that there's jQuery Lite. It's also being assigned to the value of jQuery if jQuery is defined, else it's using jQuery Lite. So a great example of how you can navigate through that. Okay, so that's the global variables associated to Angular, and now the function scopes. The function scopes are basically, they start at a global function scope, so it's like the global function scope is the outer function scope of the script itself, and then all of the underlying functions and function scopes and associated variables are defined underneath that. So as we navigate through this, you can see that we'll have a series of functions, for example, for each, as you can see here. And here's a call to is function, and so on and so forth. And as you navigate through each of these functions, you're able to go back and forth and also do an inspection of where that function reference might be utilized. So for example, for each is utilized in HTTP in this service here, provider. So somewhere in there it is, and so on and so forth. So uppercase, it's an example here, and you can see that where there is an anonymous function, we'll break it out. So for example, if we look at function scope, this is actually, since it's the outer function scope, it's going to pretty much be the entire application. But you'll notice here that that where there is an inline function such as isObject or isDefined or isString or isNumber, as in this example, or isDate, we actually link to a separate definition of that. So it makes it a lot easier to kind of navigate through and understand each of the areas associated to that. So as we go through this, you'll see the same sort of effect as we go down and look at, let's go down here, widen that up. Let's take a look at a function scope down below. Let's see here, or let's take a look at the browse provider. Here's an example. So we're looking at, that's actually the function, so it's the same sort of principle, but this is an anonymous function associated to this browse provider function. So if you click on that, it takes you to the inner function scope associated to that. So there's your anonymous function. And you can see you can keep browsing and so forth. So there's quite a bit in the script, but using this compiled help documentation, we have provided you with a very novel way of navigating through and understanding some fairly sophisticated JavaScript. Kind of takes the, as I say, the forest, the trees away from the forest, and kind of opens it up, parts it a little bit, and allows you to kind of navigate through very quickly, and you know, using search and all of the various elements that are there. So I thank you very much. Hope you've enjoyed this short video on our AngularJS compiled help documentation. Thank you and have a nice day.